Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo.
Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo.
Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo.
Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo.
Welcome everyone to the 16th Tirobhav ceremony of His Holiness Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami. We have this year quite a good group of Chinese devotees. Some of them are disciples of Tamal Krishna Goswami. Some of them have known Tamal Krishna Goswami and some have never met him but just heard about him. So it's a good opportunity for them to hear about Tamal Krishna Goswami's service to Srila Prabhupada. Yesterday we had a wonderful celebration for Chinese. Actually, Chinese New Year is today, but we didn't want to conflict with today's celebration. So we had Chinese New Year celebration yesterday at the Anand Hall, and we definitely felt very strongly the presence of Tamal Krishna Goswami, who is the one who started what he called China Mission. Specifically, the word mission reflects on the fact that it was a matter of urgency and also that it had to be done by taking into consideration many risks. And the result is showing today by having all these wonderful Chinese devotees with us. We want to welcome also all the devotees who are visiting Mayapur, who are attending this function today. In one lecture celebrating Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Disappearance Day, Srila Prabhupada explained that there's actually no difference between appearance and disappearance. What is most essential is for the devotees to be engaged in remembering the spiritual master and to have wonderful uplifting exchanges that will enhance this remembrance. So, unlike previous years, as you may notice, we have far less senior devotees, Srila Prabhupada disciples. One of the reasons is that they are conducting the GBC meeting during this celebration, so they can't avail themselves to be here with us. But there are other Prabhupada disciples and sannyasis whom we will ask to speak. But what will this facilitate is that we're going to give also voice to the disciples of Tamal Krishna Goswami who normally don't have a chance to speak on that day. So we're going to call upon some of you to speak and share your realizations or whatever you can remember of your relationship or anything that has taken place that you were witness of during the time of Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami. We're going to do this until 12:30, after which we will go over to Tamal Krishna Goswami's Samadhi, where we will offer flowers, Puspanjali and Guru Puja. And after that, I think around 2 o'clock, we will serve a wonderful feast.
So I had the good fortune to work under Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj for about 20 years, I think, maybe 20 years. So I'm very fortunate. He gave me a lot of guidance. He gave me a lot of inspiration. He was a very powerful personality. And just this morning, Lokanath Swami was asking me, before he gave class, he asked me, he said, what do you remember about Tamal Krishna Goswami? So I told Lokanath Swami Maharaj, I told him that I remember him as being a very staunch follower of Srila Prabhupada. He was always very deeply attached to Srila Prabhupada. And I think that was a very wonderful inspiration for me, because I didn't have any real association with Srila Prabhupada directly, although of course I saw Prabhupada many times and sometimes walked with him, sometimes even drove in a car with him, but still, you know, I cannot say I was an intimate disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Tamal Krishna Goswami was. He was one of the most intimate disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And I remember some of the things which he went through under Srila Prabhupada's leadership. We heard this morning in the Bhagavatam class, Lokanath Swami was describing how Tamal Krishna Goswami had gone to America and began a big program to distribute books, and he'd made many devotees, and he had many sannyasis all working under his leadership in the Radha Damodar party. And they were having a big impact, distributing many books and making many devotees also. But there were some problems. And so Prabhupada told Tamal Krishna Goswami, he told him, I'm taking it all away from you. Now, that's not an easy thing to accept, to have somebody take everything away from you. Earlier, Tamal Krishna Goswami gave up everything to preach Krishna consciousness. He was a GBC man, and he had a nice wife, but he gave it all up so that he could put more energy into preaching. So Prabhupada appreciated that, how he'd given up. In those days, to be a GBC man, you should not be a sannyasi. If you were a sannyasi, you were just to preach, travel and preach. But the GBC men were more grihastas. But Tamal Krishna Goswami gave up his grihasta ashram to become a preacher. And then he was preaching and he had this Radha Damodar party, and Prabhupada said, I'm taking everything away from you. So that it's very, but that only increased his love for Srila Prabhupada. He didn't have any regret that Prabhupada had treated him unfairly or harshly, but he accepted it all. Because of course, Prabhupada gave him the alternative. He said, you go to China. And in 1976, 77, when this happened, China was not open, was not a very open country. It was still recovering from the Cultural Revolution, and foreigners were very few in China, and China also at that time economically was not very prosperous. I remember going to China in those days, and we would see the roads full of bicycles everywhere, and the houses were what we call ping fang. You know, ping fang means houses built with bricks, you know, they're on the ground, and often without toilets, but just some communal toilet. So very simple conditions, but now it's totally transformed. But Tamal Krishna, when Tamal Krishna Goswami had first gone to China, it was in that condition. It was quite simple. But he accepted that, and with great enthusiasm, he dedicated himself to that. And although Prabhupada was seemingly harsh and severe on him, it never disturbed his faith in Prabhupada. He always had very strong faith in Prabhupada. Even though sometimes he had some conflict between other devotees, you know, there was like some interest that maybe go and hear more from Prabhupada's godbrothers, but he never did that. He stayed loyal with Prabhupada. He never went away, even though sometimes pressure was put on him. But he never ever slackened his strong and very deep faith in Srila Prabhupada and in the Krishna consciousness movement. I said to him one time, I said, why don't you just stay in Vrindavan and read the books of the Goswamis? And he said to me, he said, that was all I wanted to do, but they wouldn't let me. So they, meaning, you know, like the other godbrothers, the senior devotees. But that was actually his real interest. He just simply wanted to read the books of the Goswamis, and he was totally absorbed, very deeply absorbed in the Vaishnava culture. And he loved the culture so much. Just everything was culture, you know, how you serve the food. You know, he would say, bitter things first, the sweet last. And you know, everything had to be done the proper way according to the culture. When a devotee was serving prasadam, I remember just before he disappeared, I was in his apartment the day before, and we had prasadam with him with many devotees. So one devotee was serving prasadam, and he said, would you like more, Gurudev? And Tamal Krishna Goswami looked at him and said, would your mother ask you if you want more? She would just put it on your plate. Why are you asking me if I want more? Yeah, you know, he's pointing out, this is the culture. The culture is you put food on the plate. Unless you've got your hands over your plate, you know, they'll put food on your plate. This is the culture. And he liked to live the culture, you know, it was his very life. So we're very sorry that he left us so suddenly, and we feel great separation from him, but we know that he's gone to be with Srila Prabhupada and helping Srila Prabhupada in some other place to distribute Krishna consciousness. Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaja ki